The world is a fast changing place. Every day a new meme becomes popular, a new guy gets cancelled, and a new trend comes up. And I'm not only talking about the trends on Instagram, I'm talking about trends in everything markets, economy, and more. And so, in such times, it is a death sentence to stick to a single narrative without ever questioning it. So today I'll challenge a very popular belief about the Indian economy which has changed a long time ago, but it has still remained the same in the minds of our Indian investors. Now I know that you don't have a lot of time and you might want to go do something else, but please watch this video till the end because these next few minutes will save you a lot of your money in the future. So let's get started. Do a very small task with me. Open up WhatsApp and ask any of your stock market friends or uncles which is the best sector or stocks to currently invest your money in. If you don't have any stock market friends or uncles, it is alright. But chances are most of them will tell you to invest your money in consumer discretionary companies. That is, companies that benefit from the general public spending money on fulfilling their different wants, like buying a car, buying new clothes, or spending money on eating food outside. They'll tell you that these are the best companies because they have huge growth potential in the future because of various reasons like recent income tax cuts, exponential increase in the per capita income of India, and more such reasons. But saying this is easy and proving it maybe not so much, because the reasons that make people believe that discretionary spending will be the next big thing for India are not as sound as they seem. And let me tell you why is that the case. Let's start with the most recent one, the income tax cuts. In the most recent budget, the government decided to cut income tax rates and also made income below 12 lakh rupees completely tax-free, up from the previous 7 lakh rupees limit. After hearing this, most of the people chose to default to the most basic explanation. More money in the hands of the general public, more discretionary spending, and more economic growth. Yay! But just think about it. How many people actually pay income tax in India right now? For FY 22-23, only 2.23 crore people paid income tax, which is less than 2% of the population. And that means for 98% of the people of the country, this change will have no material impact at all. And now you're telling me that income tax cuts will have a big impact? I mean, come on, man. Okay, now moving on to the second point. Most people talk about how we'll see an exponential growth in our country's per capita income like other developed nations, and we most often get compared to China and how we are at a point where China was in 2005 just before their exponential growth. As you can see in the chart below, right after China crossed the $2,000 mark, its per capita GDP rose exponentially. India's current per capita GDP is at $2,480 and everybody is expecting the same growth with India too. But there are many stark differences between India and China. Like China's literacy rate is much higher than India's, which means much more skillful working population. China's infrastructure is better than India's, and also that China is much more technologically advanced than India. So how can we say that we are gonna grow like China did after 2005? It's just not possible with the current situation that we are in. Just think about it. India's current GDP is $3.57 trillion and China's current GDP is $17.7 trillion, which means China is 5 times as large as us. And so if we want the same growth as China, we should grow 5 times faster than them, right? But while it is expected that India's economy will grow at 6.5% in 2025, China's economy is expected to grow at a slightly lower rate of 4.5%, which means by the end of 2025, India will add $380 billion to its GDP, whereas China will add a whopping $1.26 trillion. So in absolute terms, China is still growing 3 times faster than India, and so this should tell you that the possibility of an exponential increase in the per capita income of India is a very improbable thing to happen. But there is one thing that I'm really concerned about that will kill the consumption growth in India, and that is AI. AI is supposed to be for the betterment of humanity, and it is doing so. Going forward, AI will become an ever increasing part of our lives and it will enrich our experience of living in this world. AI is currently best at doing the non-creative work for you, the work which follows set patterns and requires more time and less thinking. Like classifying your data, finding stuff from different places, and other stuff like this which doesn't require a lot of thinking but takes your time. And this is a problem for India's job market. You see, a huge amount of jobs that come in the Indian market are of this non-creative type. Again, I'm not saying that all of the jobs are of this non-creative type, but a huge amount of them are. Crores and crores of people in India are employed in jobs such as being a telecaller, bank teller, cashier, data entry clerk, accounting clerk, and more. And these jobs don't require a lot of creativity and are very rudimentary. Okay, you could say that telecalling does require creativity, but the point that I'm getting to is that the pace with which AI models are being developed around the world, it will take no time for AI to do all of these things at a fraction of the cost of a human employee, and that is what I'm worried about. AI will increase the overall productivity of an organization but at the cost of its employees' jobs. And so going forward, I expect unemployment to rise in India as more and more companies start to utilize more AI in their organization. This will worsen the job market and will put a lot of downward pressure on wages and salaries as people will have a hard time justifying them. Heck, India's largest private sector employer, the IT industry, has already started to do it and it will only worsen from here. But the government will need to do something to create jobs, right? So, what's the play here? The solution to this situation seems to be labor-intensive industries because AI is a software and it cannot forge pipes, right? And so as jobs get cut across the board in the service sector, labor-intensive industries such as manufacturing and industrials can be the saving grace for the Indian economy. Going forward, you will see a huge push from the government on the manufacturing and industrial promotion policies because they cannot stop the private sector from cutting jobs, so they might as well focus somewhere else and create more. Additionally, the US-China trade war that is just starting will have some impact on the companies that have set up their manufacturing base in China, and so they might decide to move their manufacturing base or a part of it to some other country like Vietnam, Indonesia, or India. But mind you, the manufacturing cost in China is so cheap that even after adding the extra cost of tariffs, they will still be hard to beat. This is where the Indian government will need to step up its infrastructure game even more, and that is making more roads, dams, power lines, water lines, etc. But how will they fund all of this? That is by taxing the hell out of the general public. The unlimited amount of taxes that you cry about, well, those are not going anywhere anytime soon. But did they just cut the income tax rate in this budget? Yes, they did. But as I said before that the overall effect is very small, which means they did it to buy a lot of public goodwill for a small price. In all the sectors that will grow the most in the next few years are manufacturing, industrials, infrastructure and power. And now I will not mention any specific stock names because this is not the right time, but when the right time comes I will surely do. So subscribe to the channel for that. Now there will obviously be good companies outside of these sectors too, but I think these are the sectors that are poised for the most growth in the next few years. All you have to do is find the sector leaders or innovators, research about them and pull the trigger when the time is right. A boat in the sea always travels the fastest when it is going with the tide, not against it. And in today's time, most of the people don't even know where the tide is heading and how it is changing. They assume that the tides will always stay the same and continue how they have in the past. But as you and I know, the markets never stay the same for a very long time. And so, with every market cycle, new leaders emerge and the old ones lag behind. All I hope is that you are paying attention to the changing tide so that you can find tomorrow's leaders and ride them towards your financial success. See ya in another one.